In the dusty expanse of the Arizona Territory, where the sun scorched the earth like an unrelenting forge, Elijah Thorne spurred his horse through a sudden sandstorm that whipped across the plains. His weathered hat clung low over his brow, shielding eyes that had seen too much loss. Behind him, in the creaking wagon, his 2 young daughters huddled under a threadbare blanket, little Rosie, with her wide-eyed innocence at 6, and Sarah, 8 and already carrying the weight of a mother's absence on her tiny shoulders. Elijah's wife, Mary, had been taken by fever 2 winters past, leaving him a hollow man, ranching alone on a patch of unforgiving land. But today, the storm wasn't the only force closing in. Desperation clawed at his heart. He needed help, a mother for his girls, before the wilds claimed them all. As the winds howled, Elijah spotted a figure stumbling along the rutted trail, a woman, cloaked in rags, her dark hair matted and wild. She collapsed against a jagged rock, her body trembling from exhaustion or hunger, or both. He reined in his horse, his instincts as a man of the frontier kicking in. "Ma'am," he called over the gale, dismounting swiftly. "You all right? This ain't no place to be wanderin' alone." She lifted her head, revealing eyes like deep wells of sorrow, framed by olive skin that spoke of distant lands, perhaps Mexico, or further south, where stories of hardship echoed across borders. Her name was Isabella Ruiz, she whispered, an outcast bride abandoned at the altar in a border town, shunned by her family for reasons she wouldn't yet reveal. No home, no kin, just the open road and the mercy of strangers. Elijah's heart twisted. He wasn't one for charity without purpose. The ranch demanded every ounce of sweat and resolve. But looking at her, frail yet fierce, he saw a mirror of his own brokenness. "Climb in the wagon," he said gruffly, helping her up. "We got shelter ahead, least for the night." The girls peeked out, Rosie's curiosity blooming into a tentative smile, while Sarah eyed the stranger warily. As they rattled toward the modest cabin Elijah called home, a sturdy adobe structure with a corral for his cattle and a garden struggling against the drought, Isabella spoke little, her accent thick with the rhythms of Spanish, words like gracias slipping out in gratitude. She had crossed the border fleeing a scandal, she admitted softly, promised to a man who deemed her impure after whispers of a past love lost to violence. Outcast, penniless, she had begged for work in saloons and farms, only to be turned away as a foreigner or worse. That evening, as the storm subsided and stars pierced the velvet sky, Elijah sat by the fire, mending a harness while the girls slept. Isabella stirred a pot of beans over the flames, her hands deft despite their calluses. "Why help me?" she asked, her voice a melody of doubt and hope. Elijah paused, his rough fingers stilling. "Ain't just help," he replied. "I need a mother for my girls. They deserve more than a pa who's out chasing cattle from dawn to dusk. And you need shelter. A roof, food, a place to belong." The words hung heavy, a proposal born not of romance but necessity. Isabella's eyes widened, an unexpected turn, this blunt offer from a stranger. Marriage? To a widower cowboy, in this godforsaken land? Yet, in his gaze, she saw no pity, only shared survival. "Think on it," he added, turning away to hide the vulnerability cracking his stoic facade. The days blurred into a tentative rhythm. Isabella stayed, not yet accepting the proposal, but weaving herself into the fabric of their lives with quiet acts of kindness. She mended the girls' dresses with scraps of fabric from her own tattered shawl, teaching them Spanish lullabies that lulled them to sleep like gentle breezes. Rosie clung to her like a vine, calling her Bella with giggles that filled the empty cabin. Sarah, however, resisted, her small heart armored against another loss. "You ain't our ma," she spat one afternoon, after Isabella tried to braid her hair. The words stung, but Isabella knelt, her voice soft. "No, Nina, I'm not. But perhaps I can be a friend, until you decide." Elijah watched from afar, his own reservations simmering. Was this selflessness, or just desperation? He had buried his heart with Mary, could he open it to this outcast woman, whose past whispered of secrets? Then came the unexpected turn that shattered their fragile peace. A band of rustlers, notorious for raiding ranches along the border, struck under the cover of night. Elijah awoke to the thunder of hooves and gunfire, grabbing his rifle as shadows swarmed the corral. "Stay inside," he bellowed to Isabella and the girls, charging out into the chaos. Bullets whizzed past, one grazing his arm, blood blooming on his shirt. He fought fiercely, dropping 2 intruders, but they outnumbered him. As he reloaded, a rustler burst through the cabin door, his eyes wild with greed. Inside, Isabella shielded the girls, her mind racing. In a flash of profound realization, she grabbed the iron poker from the fire, swinging it with the fury of a woman who had lost everything once and refused to again. The intruder crumpled, and she dragged him out, screaming warnings in Spanish that echoed into the night. The rustlers fled, but not before Elijah collapsed, wounded and feverish. In the dim lamplight, Isabella tended his injuries, her hands steady as she cleaned the wound with boiled water and herbs from her satchel, remedies passed down from her abuela in a Mexican village. The girls hovered, tears streaming. "Don't die, Pa," Sarah whimpered, clutching Isabella's skirt for the first time. As Elijah's fever broke, he looked up at her, seeing not an outcast, but a pillar of strength. "You saved us," he murmured. "Why risk it for strangers?" Isabella's eyes filled with tears. "Because kindness is the only shelter I've ever known. My own family cast me out for loving a man killed by bandits, calling me cursed. But here, with you, I see humanity's power to heal." In that moment, Sarah rushed forward, embracing Isabella. "Be our ma," she whispered, a profound realization dawning in her young eyes that love wasn't blood, but choice. The emotional climax crested as Elijah, bandaged and humbled, took Isabella's hand by the fireside. "I proposed out of need," he confessed, his voice cracking with genuine emotion. "But now, it's more. You've given us your heart, selfless and true. Marry me, not for shelter, but for family." Isabella nodded, tears mingling with a smile. Her act of compassion, defending this makeshift home with her life, had transformed them all. No longer widower and outcast, they were bound by generosity's unbreakable thread. In the months that followed, the ranch blossomed under their united efforts. Isabella's garden flourished with peppers and corn from her heritage, blending with Elijah's hardy crops. The girls thrived, their laughter a symphony of hope. Word spread through the territory of the cowboy who wed the outcast bride, a tale of kindness bridging divides, of borders, of grief, of doubt. It reminded folks, from dusty saloons to far-flung villages, that selflessness could rebuild worlds. And in the quiet evenings, as Elijah and Isabella sat on the porch, watching the sunset paint the sky in hues of gold and crimson, they knew the power of humanity. In giving shelter to another, you often find your own. For in a world of storms, one act of compassion can light the way home, inspiring hearts across lands and languages to believe in second chances.